One evening, Hana lounges in her room, flipping through the pages of her favorite shoujo manga. As she reads about fairy tale romances and dramatic confessions, she wonders what it would be like to experience that kind of love in real life. By the next morning, those thoughts still linger as she eats breakfast with her family. Her dad tries to make small talk, but it's obvious he has an agenda. He wants to know if Hana has a crush. When she doesn't answer him directly, he immediately jumps to conclusions and assumes that she does and panics, insisting she's too young for love. Trying to calm him down, Hana quietly admits to herself that given her looks, she might not ever experience a relationship like the ones in her manga. But instead of cooling down, her dad blurts out that Hana has a crush. Much to his dismay, her mom is excited by the news. She starts pressing Hana for details, but Hana quickly rushes through her meal and escapes before things get even more awkward. On her way to school, Hana feels a twinge of guilt, not because she's hiding a crush, but because she hasn't made a single friend since starting high school. Most days, she just spends her breaks in the bathroom, playing gacha games on her phone. Once she arrives in class, Hana's relieved to be the first one there. She immediately goes over to tend to the classroom flowers, enjoying the rare moment where she can feel like a pretty girl tending to flowers. As she moves to throw the old flowers out, she notices that some of the flowers from the previous day are still fresh, so she carefully places some in her hair, pretending, just for a second, that she's the heroine of her favorite manga as she checks how she looks on her phone. But then, breaking her from her small moment of bliss, Yousuke walks into the classroom. Caught mid-fantasy, Hana freezes. She panics at the thought that Yousuke might tell everyone about her weird habit, and in a desperate move, she even considers bribing him with cash. But Yousuke doesn't notice her panic or the attempted bribe. Instead, he casually compliments the flower in her hair. Hana, not used to compliments, completely misreads his tone and thinks he's mocking her. Embarrassed, she bolts out of the room, leaving Yousuke confused for her sudden shyness. As he watches her leave, he notices the flower on the table is different from yesterday's. The school starts to fill up, but Hana hides in the bathroom, scolding herself for acting like a shoujo manga character. She knows real life doesn't work that way, and she's convinced she's about to become the joke of the school since Yousuke will probably tell everyone how weird she is. As the chimes ring, she steels herself and slowly heads back to class, praying that Yousuke hasn't told anyone. When she enters the room, she overhears Yousuke and his friends chatting nearby. Assuming the worst, her stomach drops. But then Yousuke approaches her, slightly concerned since she had run away from him earlier. She avoids eye contact, but he gently steps into her line of sight and dangles a muffin in front of her. He tells her it's from Sumire, a popular girl who baked enough for the entire class. And this one, he says with a small smile, is hers. Hana blushes at the rare display of kindness, surprised that someone like Yousuke would go out of his way to give her something. But the moment is short-lived as he is quickly called back to his seat by his friends, who are apparently devouring all of his muffins. As he leaves, Hana feels a wave of relief. At least he didn't say anything about what happened earlier that morning. Class begins, but Hana's worries return as she believes that Yousuke will eventually tell someone. She convinces herself that she has to do something, anything, to make sure her secret is safe. She decides to confront him during break time when they are both free. But when the break finally comes, Hana stays frozen in her seat. She has no idea how to approach Yousuke, especially when he's always surrounded by people. She decides to wait till people disperse around him before approaching him. She ends up following him around, hoping for a perfect opening, but no luck. Wherever Yousuke goes, a friend is always by his side. During PE, Hana watches as he outshines all the other guys without even trying. Whether it's his athleticism, his easygoing nature, or just the way he treats others, Yusuke's popularity is on another level. She begins to think that maybe he's kind of cool, but she quickly snaps out of it, reminding herself that this isn't about falling for him, it's about protecting her secret. Someone like her doesn't have the right to even talk to someone like him. So instead, she decides to write a letter as it is easier, and no one has to know. As she nervously approaches the shoe locker area to slip her note into Yusuke's shoebox, she notices another girl standing there too, holding a letter of her own. Hana quickly hides and listens in. One of the girls confesses that she's finally going to confess to Yousuke with a love letter as her friend cheers her on to push through with it. Hana's face turns beet red as she realizes she is witnessing a real love confession through a letter, just like in her manga. Suddenly, she starts to panic that her letter might be seen as a possible love letter as well. Before she can decide what to do, Yousuke spots her and walks over with a friendly smile, clearly wanting to talk. Hana's heart races, but she tells herself that this is the perfect chance to confront him about her secret. But before she can say anything, Tetsuo calls out to Yousuke, telling him to hurry back to the classroom with him. Yousuke tries to explain that Hana was just about to say something, but Hana shakes her head, loses her nerve, and runs away. Watching her go, Tetsuo asks who she is and is shocked to learn that Hana has been their classmate this whole time. The school day ends without Hana ever handing over the letter. Feeling defeated, she leaves the classroom to water the flowers in the garden, hoping to drown her thoughts in routine. But then, Yousuke appears again, running up to her. He apologizes for not finishing their conversation during lunch. Seeing that Yousuke had gone out of his way to apologize, Hana finally gathers the courage to ask him to keep her secret about putting flowers in her hair. To her surprise, Yusuke's eyes light up. That's when it hits him. Hana is the one who's been arranging the classroom flowers every morning. He beams at her, genuinely delighted. He tells her he's always appreciated the flower arrangements and had been wondering who was behind them. But Hana misinterprets his smile. She assumes he's disappointed that someone like her, someone she sees as plain and unattractive, was the one doing it. So flustered, she quickly apologizes. Yosuke is confused but doesn't press further. He says he has to get going, mentioning that he has something to finish up. Before leaving, he reassures her with a smile that he won't tell anyone about the flowers. Hana, still dazed from the conversation, can't help but replay his words in her head. The way he promised to keep her secret, it sounded exactly like something the male lead in a shoujo manga would say to the heroine. To snap herself out of the fantasy, she gives herself a hard slap on the cheek. Still unconvinced that someone could be that nice, she imagines a darker version of the scenario, Yosuke saying the same promise but with an evil grin, telling her he'll use the secret as blackmail material. The next day, Hana wakes up from that imaginary nightmare and heads to school. After finishing her morning committee duties, she hides away in the bathroom and plays a visual novel where she's romancing a fictional guy. She manages to get a good response from the in-game character and thinks how easy life would be if real people had visible affection meters and that players should be given dialogue options like in games. That way she knows exactly how to interact with others. Eventually, she returns to the classroom and Yousuke is the first to notice her. He calls out to her cheerfully, which startles Hana so much that her chair nearly falls backward, but it's caught just in time by Sumire, who smiles warmly at her. Yousuke rushes over to check on them and Sumire scolds him for surprising Hana. The two slip into an easy, natural conversation, which Hana watches in silent awe. They invite her to go over assignments with them, but Hana freezes, unsure how to respond. Before she can say anything, another classmate injects himself into the conversation. Later in the day, the teacher reminds everyone about their committee meetings. Hana eagerly heads out only to be stopped by a fellow beautification committee member from another class, who asks if Hana can cover for her due to an urgent matter. Hana agrees to help without a second thought. In truth, she prefers working alone rather than with committee members she barely speaks to. When the meeting starts, the beautification committee is told to pair up due to the large workload. Hana quickly realizes how much work there is, but still reassures the committee president that she's fine handling both her own responsibilities and the missing member's share. After some hesitation, the president accepts her offer. Soon, Hana finds herself alone, staring at the big number of bags of soil and plants meant for a new flower bed. Meanwhile, as Yousuke is about to head home, he overhears the very girl Hana offered to cover for, casually bragging about skipping a meeting. Apparently, she had no intention of helping and showed no remorse for dumping the work on Hana. Annoyed by what he hears, Yousuke texts his friends that he'll meet them later and rushes off to find Hana. He spots her just as she's about to start planting. Hana jumps in surprise when Yousuke suddenly shows up and offers to help. She immediately tries to talk him out of it, pointing out how dirty and sweaty the work is. But Yousuke insists, saying it doesn't feel right that she's doing everything alone. Thinking he's misunderstanding the situation, that she's getting bullied, Hana panics a little. She explains that she volunteered to help because her fellow committee member had urgent business to attend to. Still, Yousuke chooses to stay, and before long, they fall into a steady rhythm of planting together. As a gentle breeze passes by, Hana catches a whiff of Yusuke's cologne. It smells just as nice as he looks. That realization hits her hard, and she suddenly becomes very aware of how sweaty and smelly she is. Embarrassed, she starts working farther away, worried that he'll notice her smell. Yousuke looks up to say something and is surprised to see her moving to the other side of the flower bed. Thanks to his help, they finish the work while the sun is still in the sky. Just then, Hana's stomach growls, and to her horror, Yousuke hears it. He just laughs and says it's totally normal to be hungry after hard work. Before she knows it, Hana finds herself walking to a convenience store with him. As they browse for food, she begins to regret it, worried someone might recognize them together. Yousuke notices her troubled expression and assumes she's just super hungry. Feeling guilty for driving him along, Hana offers to treat him, but Yousuke refuses and pays for his own food. He tells her to take her time choosing and that he'll wait outside. Once she checks out, Hana comes up to him with a plastic bag and insists he take it as thanks. Yousuke hesitantly accepts, only to find it packed with snacks and drinks. Hana shyly admits she didn't know what he liked, so she just bought a little of everything. Moved by her kindness, Yousuke decides to give her his karaage. She takes a bite, and her face lights up with joy. Seeing her reaction, Yousuke grins and casually tells her that he'll buy karaage for two so they can share the next time. Hana nearly chokes on her food at the suggestion. Yusuke, startled, scrambles to hand her a bottle of water. From a distance, unknown to the two, Sumire watches them silently. As Hana realizes their conversation falling more naturally, she allows herself to think that she finally found a friend. One morning, Sumire was sharing a flyer for a nearby bowling alley. Her friends gathered around and suggested that they should all go one day. Tsutomu, who was eavesdropping on the conversation, suddenly reveals that he has a coupon for 50% off. He offers to give it to them, but Sumire insists that he should come along too. She admits it wouldn't sit right with her to use the coupon if Tsutomu weren't there as well. Tsutomu, now excited, rushes over to Yusuke and asks him to join them. The moment Yusuke agrees to go, almost all the other boys immediately follow suit. With the plan quickly expanding into a class hangout, Sumire then decides to invite Hana too, wanting to include her in a class activity. Caught off guard, Hana doesn't quite hear Sumire properly and accidentally agrees. And just like that, Hana ends up at the bowling alley with nearly her entire class. As the class begins deciding on teams, Hana tries to wrap her head around how she ended up there in the first place. She glances around at the group, especially at the girls, and realizes she doesn't even know most of them. The girls decide their groups through rock, paper, scissors. To Hana's surprise, she ends up on the same team as Sumire, who looks genuinely delighted by the result. Hana can't help but admire Sumire's kindness and cheerful energy, so she tells herself that she'll try her best today. Sumire leaves to go look for their male teammates. Hana quietly feels grateful for this unexpected turn of events until she realizes who their male teammates are: Yusuke, Tsutomu, and Tetsuo. When the game begins, Hana watches in awe as Sumire bowls effortlessly. Not only is she good, but she somehow manages to look adorable while doing it. Their team cheers her on, and soon enough, it's Hana's turn. Nervously, she steps up to the lane. Just as she's about to throw the ball, the lights dim and a loud announcement echoes through the alley. It's time for the Moonlight Challenge. The current players get one shot. If they knock down 9 or more pins, it's counted as a strike, and the winners get a free photo booth picture. Sumire immediately says she wants to win so she can take photos, and Tsutomu starts hyping Hana up, cheering for her to win the challenge. Hana watches the other players throw their balls before nervously trying her best. Unfortunately, hers rolls straight into the gutter. Embarrassed, she quietly returns to her team. Yusuke gently tells her to watch him bowl so she can learn how to aim and score better next time. Yusuke effortlessly lands a strike, shocking Hana with how smooth and natural his movements are. As she steps back, she notices Tsutomu taking a selfie nearby. He explains that he needs to update his story and proudly shows the picture to Hana. But when she looks at it, she's confused. The photo doesn't even show him bowling. Sumire giggles and says she loves how photos give people something to look back on. Suddenly, she asks if she can take a photo of Hana and Yusuke together. Yusuke poses without hesitation, but Hana freezes. She has no idea how to react. She fidgets nervously and the photo ends up blurry. Still, Sumire seems content and continues snapping photos of their team throughout the day. Later on, Hana mentally prepares herself for one more game. She carefully polishes her bowling ball, determined to do better. Yusuke and Tetsuo come over to check on her. Noticing how shiny her ball has become, Hana places the ball back down and grabs her strawberry milk instead. Suddenly, Tetsuo brings up something unexpected. He asks what she and Yusuke were talking about the other day. Yusuke immediately scolds Tetsuo, saying that his conversation with Hana is meant to stay a secret. Hana stares at Yusuke, stunned. She didn't think he'd actually keep his word. The fact that he remembered and defended her makes her heart flutter. She blushes, touched by his kindness. Sumire, however, seems to notice their exchange. Before long, it's Hana's turn again. Nervously, she steps up to the lane. Remembering Yusuke's advice, she takes a breath, clears her mind, and tries to mimic his form. The ball rolls down the lane, and to her delight, it knocks down all the pins, granting her a strike. Her team cheers, and as she turns back, Yusuke is the first to congratulate her, flashing her an encouraging smile as she returns. Blushing, Hana thanks him sincerely. For the first time, she feels like she's not just doing better, she feels like she's making real friends. Yusuke, moved by her words, quietly prepares for his next turn. Meanwhile, Hana, still riding the high of her success, notices her shoelace is untied. She quickly bends down to tie it, using the ball return for balance, completely unaware that the ball is already on its way back and slams into her fingers. Sumire immediately brings her over to the vending machines and buys her a cold drink to help with the swelling. Hana is grateful, but her excitement has completely faded. She blames herself for ruining the fun. She wonders if Sumire regrets inviting her and starts to apologize, but Sumire beats her to it, apologizing first. Noticing Hana's confused expression, Sumire admits to herself that she may have meddled too much. Her intention was to give Hana a chance to spend more time with Yusuke, under the assumption that the two of them were secretly dating. Hana stares at her, completely blank. Her mind reels, lips parting slightly in shock before she silently asks Sumire to clarify what she meant. Sumire, unfazed, brings up the convenience store encounter where she had seen Hana and Yusuke together. Yusuke's arm draped around Hana's shoulders as they exited. She also recalls overhearing Tetsuo mention that the two had a private conversation one afternoon. The weight of the misunderstanding hits Hana all at once. She worries that such a rumor could ruin his reputation or make others treat him differently. In her flustered state, Hana tries to explain herself. She insists that there is absolutely nothing romantic between her and Yusuke. She tells Sumire that Yusuke is just the kind of person who's kind to everyone, regardless of appearance or status. In her mind, she's just another oddity to him, someone interesting in the way a peculiar object might be. Sumire's expression shifts. Relief washes over her face and she seems to understand. But before Hana can fully register that response, Yusuke appears beside them, casually returning their bags. Their classmates have already gone, and the day is quietly coming to an end. Hana accepts her bag and watches the two of them walk ahead. She finds herself quietly admiring how natural they look together. Hana can't help but think they would make a great couple. During Golden Week, Hana wakes up to a message from Sumire. Still groggy, she checks her phone and finds a handful of photos from the bowling trip. She scrolls through them, each one capturing small, cheerful moments between teammates. Seeing herself among them feels surreal. Her quiet reflection is interrupted when her mother calls her down for lunch. Soon she finds herself seated at a restaurant with her parents. Her father brings up how much she's grown and even starts teasing her about future weddings. Her mother joins in the playful banter as Hana browses the menu, pretending not to hear them. As the waiter approaches to take their order, Hana glances up and freezes. Kneeling beside their table is Yusuke, wearing the uniform of the restaurant. It takes her a moment to process it. Reality hits like a brick. Yusuke, it turns out, works part-time at the okonomiyaki place. Hana's face burns with embarrassment. She hadn't expected to run into him here of all places. All she wants now is to eat quickly and head home to pretend the whole thing never happened. But her parents are far too curious. Even her father notes out loud that Yusuke is surprisingly good-looking. Seeing that Hana isn't offering clear answers, her mother takes matters into her own hands and begins directing questions straight to Yusuke. To Hana's horror, Yusuke answers each one cheerfully, unaware that her mother tends to go overboard once she starts. Just as Hana begins to panic, her father steps in to remind his wife that they still need to place their order. Hana silently thanks him, until he casually announces that Hana will be getting a large serving of natto kimchi. Yusuke appears unfazed, but Hana, mortified, quickly tries to change her order to a small veggie okonomiyaki instead. Her mother, however, insists loudly that there will be no changes, adding that Hana is just too shy around handsome men. Yusuke quietly accepts the order as is, but Hana pleads with him to please give her the vegetable dish anyway. When Yusuke heads off to prepare the food, both parents begin eyeing Hana with curious expressions. Her mother looks absolutely thrilled at the idea of Hana having such a good-looking friend. Her father, while slightly amused, still reminds her that Hana is too young to have a boyfriend. Before Hana can recover, Tetsuo walks into the restaurant and immediately spots them. He greets her parents politely, only further fueling her mother's enthusiasm at the realization that Hana has made more than one friend. Watching her parents, Hana can practically read their thoughts just from their expressions. The situation is becoming more unbearable by the minute, so she decides the only way to keep things from spiraling is to keep her mother distracted. When the ingredients arrive at the table, Hana tries to volunteer to cook, but her mother quickly requests that Yusuke be the one to cook for them. Hana protests, but Tetsuo backs her mother up, claiming that okonomiyaki is safest in Yusuke's capable hands. He even jokes that he could fall asleep and still trust the dish to be perfect. Hana tells herself she can endure 10 minutes of bland conversation to prevent further embarrassment. But before she can even begin, her mother beats her to it and asks both boys if they have girlfriends. Tetsuo replies respectfully with a simple no. Yusuke, on the other hand, seems to hesitate slightly, glancing at Hana before answering. The awkward pause doesn't go unnoticed. Feeling the tension rising, Hana tries once more to take over the cooking, but in her haste, her fingers brush against the edge of the hot grill. She winces and quickly excuses herself, heading to the restroom to cool her burned hand. Alone, she reflects on how these kinds of embarrassing moments seem to be happening more often lately. When she returns to the table, the food's already prepared. As she begins eating, she notices a glass filled to the brim with ice beside her plate. It was left there by Yusuke for her burn. Touched by the gesture, she promises her parents she'll thank him properly when they settle the bill. Her mother, however, has other plans. She reminds Hana that she still has to thank him when he brings out the birthday cake she ordered in secret. Yusuke reappears just in time to overhear this and is surprised to learn that it's Hana's birthday. She had hoped to keep that detail quiet, but instead of teasing her, Yusuke simply says he would have written a birthday message on her okonomiyaki if he'd known. Tetsuo then offers her a photo booth coin he won during the bowling trip. Yusuke rummages through his apron and pulls out a couple of coupons as his gift. He tells her his shift schedule and mentions that he hopes she'll visit again. Overwhelmed, Hana promises to celebrate both of their birthdays, only to immediately regret blurting it out. But to her surprise, both boys smile and reveal that their birthdays fall on holidays too. Sumire remembers she had always gotten attention due to her good looks even as a child. By the time she reached 4th grade, she realized she could use it to her advantage. Life could instantly be easier thanks to her popularity. Now, as she makes her way to class, a boy approaches her asking for her IN number. She inwardly cringes, wondering how to turn him down without ruining her reputation. Putting on a troubled expression, Tsutomu quickly rushes in to shoo the boy away. The guy retreats for now, and Tsutomu takes the opportunity to ask for her IN account so they can mail each other. But before Sumire can answer, one of her friends pulls her away. When she enters the classroom, she is greeted by Yousuke. She thinks to herself that if Yousuke were the one asking for her IN number, she would readily give it to him since he's handsome, kind, and easy to talk to. But instead of lingering on her, Yousuke walks past and heads straight to Hana, offering her some lunch coupons from his work for her mother. Sumire finds it suspicious that Yousuke is concerned about Hana's mother and starts to wonder how deep their relationship truly goes. Trying to reassure herself that there's nothing going on between Yousuke and Hana, Sumire is once again thrown off when she sees Tetsuo acting equally friendly with Hana. She begins to wonder what kind of strategist Hana is and decides to insert herself into their conversation to find out. Hana greets her nervously, unaware that Sumire is now determined to uncover the secret to her charm. During gym class, Sumire pairs up with Hana, hoping to learn what makes her so appealing to the boys, especially Yousuke. To her disappointment, Hana goes through the exercises with zero effort to be cute or charming. With PE being a complete failure, Sumire decides to get to know Hana better by inviting her to lunch. She shows off a cute, well-prepared bento as they sit across from each other. When Hana reveals her own lunch, both she and Sumire are horrified to see it's just plain rice and pickled plum. Yousuke notices the two sitting together, something he's observed more often lately. A week later, Sumire sits in the girls' restroom, satisfied with the thought that if anyone were to compare her to Hana, she would still come out as the better girl. As she walks through the hall, Sumire briefly thinks that Hana is aware she's being watched and has been deliberately dodging her observations. So when she runs into Hana, she decides to join her after school for beautification committee chores. She inwardly groans as she sits next to Hana by the flower bed, already dreading sunburn and getting dirty, but she maintains a cheerful smile to avoid giving herself away. Before they work, Hana comments that Sumire looks beautiful surrounded by flowers. Sumire pretends to appreciate the compliment and continues with the weeding. She pulls a little too hard on one weed and doesn't notice the earthworms that land on her uniform from the soil. Hana points them out, and Sumire immediately freaks out and rushes off to wash and calm herself down. As she walks back, she debates whether to just skip out and leave Hana to finish the work alone, but she freezes when she notices Yousuke nearby. She's about to greet him, but stops in her tracks when she sees him walking straight to Hana instead. Yousuke asks if Hana is once again left to do committee work alone, but Hana tells him that Sumire is helping out today. She then shows him the salvia flowers he helped her plant, now in full bloom. Sumire watches them from a distance and feels a renewed determination. She absolutely has to figure out Hana's secret to catching Yusuke's attention. Once Yousuke leaves, she approaches Hana and invites her to hang out once they're done with committee work. Her true motive is that she hopes to get close enough that Hana will eventually give up on Yousuke. Meanwhile, Yousuke is brought to a multi-hobby shop by Tsutomu, who secretly wants to find out more about Yusuke's hobbies and possibly get him to open up. He starts by asking Yousuke about his dating experiences in junior high, only to be shocked when Yousuke says he's never had a girlfriend. Most of his interactions with girls, he explains, involve being scolded about school matters. Tsutomu can't help but feel a tinge of jealousy. No one ever approached him in junior high. When he finally asks if Yousuke has a crush, Yousuke admits he does. Tsutomu feels oddly relieved that his crush doesn't seem to be Sumire. Tsutomu decides to give Yousuke some advice, proudly calling himself the master of love. He tells Yousuke that a girl who was calm and serious would suit him best. Yousuke seems to think it over and asks if he means someone like Hana, but Tsutomu immediately shoots the idea down, insisting that Hana is a bad match in every possible aspect. Just then, Tsutomu hears some familiar voices. He peeks over a shelf and is horrified to see some of his former junior high classmates nearby. Meanwhile, Hana finds herself wandering a posh shopping mall and can't help but feel completely out of place. Sumire, who invited her, suggests they check out the pharmacy first. Hana thinks she can handle that much, but as soon as she sees the overwhelming variety of hair treatment products, her mind begins to spin. Sumire asks curiously what kind of treatment Hana uses. Hana awkwardly admits that she doesn't really use any. Smiling herself, Sumire quietly vows to make Hana back down by making her realize how unfeminine she is in comparison. This time, it's a boutique filled with frilly and girly clothing. Hana stares at the aisles, clearly overwhelmed again. A sales clerk approaches, offering to help her try something on, and Sumire quickly agrees on Hana's behalf. Pressured into the situation, Hana tries on a dress, but it looks terrible on her. She tries another one, but the result is the same. When Sumire calls out, asking if Hana is ready, she steps inside the dressing room wearing the same pink dress. Hana explains that the dress didn't suit her, so she changed back. Sumire's plan backfires completely. She had wanted to show how much better she looked than Hana in the same dress. Hana feels relieved she changed quickly. She believes Sumire might have been horrified to see her in the same outfit. She adds that she couldn't afford to buy the dress anyway. Realizing Hana had dodged her challenge again, Sumire decides to turn the tables and asks where Hana usually shops. Hana thinks for a moment, listing places like fast food chains and bookstores, but she really doesn't know where to take her. Back at the hobby shop, Yousuke asks Tsutomu if he has a girlfriend. Before he can answer, Tsutomu turns to him wearing a full face mask. He declares the store a battlefield and tells Yousuke not to call his name aloud. As Tsutomu tries to sneak away, a group of his old classmates appears near the aisle they are in. He panics and turns to run straight to the exit. Yousuke, unfazed, pulls off the mask and reminds him that he can't leave while wearing a product he hasn't paid for. Looking for another item to conceal his identity, Tsutomu spots a pair of goofy star-shaped sunglasses and puts them on. Yousuke approaches him with concern and notices that Tsutomu is sweating. Without thinking, Tsutomu brushes him off, telling him to go away. But as Yousuke suddenly walks past him in silence, Tsutomu realizes a moment too late that his words may have come off harsher than intended. He quickly removes the sunglasses and calls out to Yousuke, but just as he does, figures step in front of him, blocking his way. Elsewhere, Hana is still pondering where to take Sumire when she spots a small general store filled with cute accessories. To her relief, Sumire is genuinely impressed by the selection. Sumire admits she's drawn to floral designs because of her name. She then encourages Hana to buy something for herself, but before Sumire can suggest something, Hana chooses a headband decorated with fake grass. Baffled by Hana's poor taste, Sumire questions her choice, assuming Hana would have gone for something floral instead. She then offers Hana a cloverleaf hairpin, suggesting it as a simple yet charming accessory. She suddenly freezes, realizing too late that she just gave Hana genuine styling advice. Hana, touched by the gesture, sees it as a sign of kindness. She happily decides to buy the pin and stares at the small paper bag. She hopes that one day she'll find the courage to wear it, and that when she does, Yousuke might notice and compliment her. That thought sends her into a panic. Realizing she's thinking of Yousuke again, she shakes her head and shouts for the thought to disappear, startling Sumire, who stares at her in confusion. Later, they stop by a cafe for some snacks. Hana begins to feel a little guilty, wondering if Sumire had held back from shopping because of her. Meanwhile, Sumire is quietly frustrated as she still hasn't figured Hana out. To shift the conversation, she casually asks Hana for romance advice. Hana panics once more, her only experience being through shoujo manga and 2D gacha game scenarios. Sumire then adds that the advice is actually for a friend who has a crush on the most popular guy in their class. As Hana listens to Sumire explain her friend's dilemma, she begins to wonder if the guy in question is actually Yousuke. The more details Sumire shares, the more Hana's thoughts drift toward him. Sumire then asks if her friend has any real chance at winning her crush over. Feeling a pang of disappointment, Hana admits she's not sure her friend stands a chance, but still encourages her to confess her feelings anyway. The words surprise even herself. In her flustered state, she accidentally spills her coffee. Meanwhile, the people blocking Tsutomu turn out to be his old classmates. They quickly resume mocking him just like they did in junior high. As Tsutomu begins to falter under their insults, Yousuke returns with a bottle of water and casually asks if the group are Tsutomu's old friends. When they confirm, Yousuke introduces himself with a smile as Tsutomu's good friend. The girls in the group are immediately taken with him, and the boys suddenly grow quiet, deciding to leave Tsutomu alone before awkwardly exiting the store. Back at the cafe, Sumire is left confused by Hana's reaction. In her mind, she decides to ask Hana for help in winning Yousuke over. If Hana believed she was helping a friend, she might step aside and give up on her feelings. She hears a sound behind her and expects to see Hana, but instead, a strange man approaches her and insists on talking. She tells him she's with a friend, but he presses on, saying his friend is also looking for company. The situation escalates. Hana witnesses the scene and hesitates, unsure of what to do until one of the men grabs Sumire's arm. That moment snaps Hana into action. She steps forward and begs the men to leave Sumire alone, firmly claiming that Sumire is her friend. Strangely, the men back off and leave. Meanwhile, Tsutomu learns that Yousuke had only left to buy water for him since he looked pale. He takes a gulp only to find out it's actually sparkling water. Later, as they part ways, Sumire invites Hana to hang out again. As they all go their separate ways, Sumire is left feeling conflicted. All this time trying to bring her down, only to discover that Hana might actually be a genuinely kind person. Kizuki stares at his brother for a moment before slamming his backpack onto Yusuke's body to wake him up. Jolted awake, Yusuke groans and Kizuki casually tells him he should be thankful for the rude awakening, since it got him up on time. Despite the abruptness, Yusuke glances at the time on his phone and realizes Kizuki has a point. As he looks out the window, he wonders if Hana is already at school. At school, Hana shyly admires herself in a small mirror, wearing the clover-shaped hairpin Sumire had picked out for her. But just as quickly, she pulls it out, her nerves getting the better of her. She's still too embarrassed to wear it around others. Throughout the morning, she silently studies how other girls wear their accessories, wondering what hairstyle would best suit the pin someday. Yusuke arrives at class just as Hana is deep in thought. Tsutomu immediately pounces on him, eager to borrow the newest manga volume. In the scuffle, Yusuke loses his balance and stumbles, bumping into Hana's desk and knocking several papers to the floor. Hana instinctively apologizes, but Yusuke insists it was his fault and that she had every right to be sitting there. He helps gather her scattered belongings, handing her items one by one. Hana quietly marvels at how kind he can be, even in clumsy moments like these. Just then, Sumire strolls up to her, noticing Hana isn't wearing the hairpin. With a smile that hides ulterior motives, she offers to help put it on for her. Secretly, Sumire plans to give Hana a terrible hairstyle as payback for Yusuke speaking to her first that morning. But when Hana searches her bag, she realizes the pin is missing. Before she can search further, the teacher enters and calls the class to order. Sumire retreats, deciding to try again later. During homeroom, Hana grows pale as she begins to suspect the pin and her hairstyle notes may have fallen when Yusuke bumped into her desk. The teacher asks if she's feeling alright, but Hana quietly insists she's fine. Internally, she's panicking. If anyone sees those notes, it would be the end of her. She watches Yusuke carefully, relieved he hasn't noticed the notebook. Determined, she vows to retrieve it unnoticed. She spends the rest of the morning stealthily stalking Yusuke, waiting for the right moment. During lunch, Yusuke searches his bag and gasps. Hana freezes, thinking he had finally realized the mix-up, but it turns out he just forgot his drink and leaves to buy one. Just as Hana prepares to retrieve her things, Sumire asks to join Yusuke. Hana watches as he casually helps fix a strand of Sumire's hair. From her seat, Hana watches the interaction with a heavy heart. She decides not to retrieve the notebook just yet, suddenly feeling like she and Yusuke are worlds apart. After school, Hana waters the flowers by her usual spot, quietly hoping Yusuke would pass by and strike up a conversation like he often did. But when the door finally opens, it's not Yusuke. Instead, it's Tetsuo. He casually informs her that Yusuke had already gone home for the day. Disappointed, Hana returns home, her gloom apparent. Her mother notices the look on her face and gently asks what's wrong. Hana doesn't confess the truth that she's upset about Yusuke possibly finding her hairpin and notebook. Instead, her mother smiles and tells her she can run an errand for her by delivering a jar of pickles to Yusuke. Hana's eyes widen when her mother refers to him by his first name. Before she can get a clear answer, her mother hands her the jar and a small map to his house. She gives her a knowing wink, much to Hana's dread. With every step, Hana grows more anxious. Along the way, she passes a small flower shop and pauses to admire the blossoms. A blonde woman named Ritsuko steps out of the shop and asks if Hana's looking to buy some. Embarrassed, Hana admits she's thinking of giving flowers to a boy but isn't sure he'd like them. Ritsuko reassures her that any gift, especially one chosen with care, can make someone happy. A younger boy named Kizuki grumbles that he wouldn't be thrilled to receive flowers himself. Hana's surprised to see a boy working in a flower shop. Ritsuko apologizes for his attitude and puts a floral ribbon on Hana's paper bag. To Hana's surprise, Ritsuko insists the ribbon is a gift. Hana debates explaining that her present isn't for a date, but ultimately decides to accept Ritsuko's kind gesture. Ritsuko cheerfully waves her off, beaming about young love. Kizuki rolls his eyes at the comment, only for Ritsuko to tease that with that attitude, he'll never be popular with girls. Annoyed, Kizuki grumbles that he's heading home and asks for his own bouquet before Ritsuko disappears inside. Eventually, Hana arrives at Yusuke's home. She stalls in front of the door, nervously rehearsing what she might say. Just then, Kizuki appears behind her, asking what business she has in front of his home. Hana freezes, recognizing Kizuki from the flower shop and realizing this boy is Yusuke's younger brother. Before she can explain, Kizuki pulls out his phone and starts dialing the police to report a suspicious girl at his doorstep. Hana tries to explain herself, but Kizuki refuses to believe a word she says. The noise eventually draws Yusuke to the door. He steps outside, startled to find Hana and Kizuki standing among uniformed police officers. Once the situation is resolved and the authorities leave, Yousuke quickly apologizes for Kizuki's behavior and invites Hana inside to make up for the trouble. He offers her tea along with the rice cakes packed by her mother, noting how carefully arranged the contents are, especially the ribbon tied around the bag. Hana explains that she passed by a nearby flower shop on the way, where the shopkeeper had kindly tied it for her. When Yousuke mentions the shop, she recalls seeing Kizuki there and wonders if the woman Ritsuko is a relative. From his spot nearby, Kizuki begins to squirm. Without hesitation, Yousuke shares that Kizuki often drops by the shop because he likes the woman who works there. Kizuki immediately kicks him in frustration, and the brothers tumble into a small scuffle. Hana watches from across the table, quietly absorbing the scene. Her cheeks warm before she even notices, but Kizuki's sharp eyes catch it. Yousuke excuses himself to change out of his tea-stained clothes, reminding Kizuki to behave in the meantime. As soon as he's out of sight, Kizuki turns to Hana, asking if she likes his brother. She panics, stumbling over her words as she tries to downplay her feelings. But Kizuki only looks at her with mild disinterest, clearly unconvinced. Worry sinks into her chest as she realizes he might say something to Yousuke. She desperately offers to do anything to keep him from revealing the truth. When Yousuke returns, he's surprised to find Hana catering to Kizuki. Despite his concern, she insists she's fine, while Kizuki relaxes, satisfied with the turn of events. As the sun begins to set, Hana finally prepares to leave. Before leaving, she brings up the lost notebook and Yousuke apologetically returns it. She brushes off the matter of the hairpin, laughing it off as something that wouldn't suit her anyway. But just as she turns to go, Yousuke suddenly takes her hand, trying to convince her that she will look fine with the hairpin. For a moment, he holds it before letting go, reminding her that she wouldn't look strange at all. Hana is left staring at Yousuke, her face suddenly growing warm as the sensation lingers on her hand. From the window above, Kizuki watches them carefully, noting the subtle exchange. The next day, Toshiyuki vents his relationship frustrations to the group. He recounts how he went out with his girlfriend the day before, only for her to begin complaining about how broke she was. Believing it to be a subtle cue, he invited her over to his place, thinking it was finally time to take things further. But instead of accepting, she grew nervous and quickly suggested they head somewhere else. He expresses his disappointment, feeling confused after dating her for a while and assuming they had reached a level of trust. Yousuke, clueless as ever, fails to understand the hesitation. In his mind, going to someone's house would save money, making the suggestion practical. Tsutomu finally decides to give him a vague explanation that girls can be complicated, and it's important to be mindful because the smallest thing can ruin the mood. This causes Yousuke to spiral, mentally reviewing all the times he's been close with Hana. A wave of panic rises within him. Class resumes, but Yousuke remains distracted, his thoughts tangled in self-doubt. He replays every moment with Hana, wondering if she's just been too polite to complain. Despite his worries, he tries to reassure himself that Hana never looked uncomfortable. He doesn't notice the teacher calling on him until Kenta nudges him. Snapping out of his thoughts, Yousuke stands and admits he doesn't know the answer. The teacher notices he's holding a math book and reminds him that they're currently in literature class. Yusuke is told to pay attention and stay focused, and he agrees enthusiastically, deciding to ask Hana directly about how she feels. Later, the class prepares cheering props. Yusuke attempts to approach Hana, but Sumire suddenly needs volunteers to help buy more supplies. The class eagerly jumps in, suggesting they go together and leave Hana behind. As they urge Yusuke to join, he hesitates, wanting to stay with Hana. But Hana insists he goes, leaving Yusuke with a sinking feeling as he processes the rejection. Inside the stationery shop, Yusuke remains distracted, guilt gnawing at him over how he's acted around Hana. Sumire approaches, asking if he wants to buy a cheering fan like everyone else. When he doesn't respond right away, she tilts her head and asks if something's bothering him, and if it has anything to do with Hana. Yusuke is startled as she could tell, but Sumire only smiles, her expression composed even as she suppresses her true feelings. He eventually confides in her, explaining what happened yesterday at his place. As he talks, Sumire listens silently, masking her growing frustration over how close he and Hana have become. Once he finishes, she gently tells him he's likely just overthinking everything. Sumire assures him that Hana, as his friend, probably doesn't view him in a negative light. Encouraged by her words, Yusuke feels lighter and thanks her, saying he'll head back to school to speak with Hana directly. Sumire tries to follow, but her classmates call for her to help pick props. Forced to stay behind, she forces a smile, all the while cursing Hana silently in her thoughts. Meanwhile, Yusuke races back to campus. Just outside, he spots Hana taking out the trash. He watches as she slips on a puddle. From a distance, he calls out and asks if she's okay, startling her. When she turns to him, he wastes no time. He admits they need to talk and begins listing moments that might have come off as rude or inappropriate. He apologizes sincerely, concerned that he may have hurt her without realizing. Yousuke feels a sense of relief for finally getting the words out, but then he notices her hesitance with how she won't meet his eyes, how her posture turns guarded. He instinctively reaches out, only to stop himself as Hana finally speaks, still avoiding his gaze. She reassures him that she's not angry. Relieved, he offers to help and picks up one of the trash bags. He admits he doesn't understand girls all that well, but hopes he can learn someday. Later that evening, Hana stares fondly at a new game case ready to begin. She notices a character that vaguely resembles Yousuke and wonders if she should try his route first. But midway, she realizes how creepy that is and screams. Her parents hear her and assume she's seen a bug. One morning, Hana groggily joins her father for breakfast. He notes that she's running later than usual. Hana doesn't admit it, but she had stayed up playing an event in her new game. Her mother enters, collecting the empty dishes, and reminds Hana that today is the school's sports event. She casually asks what sport Yousuke will be participating in, and Hana answers that he'll most likely be in soccer. Her parents immediately begin arguing over who Yousuke is again. When her father comments that Yousuke doesn't look like someone who'd do well in soccer, Hana snaps that Yousuke is actually very athletic. The table falls silent. Her mother's face lights up, thrilled that Hana is defending him. Embarrassed, Hana bolts out the door while her father finally processes the fact that Hana just talked back to him. At school, Hana trudges toward the building and notices two classmates examining her class banner. They're commenting on how it looks different compared to the others. Hana glances up too and sees what they mean. The pom-poms she used for the border look completely different from all the other class banners. Yousuke suddenly appears beside her, also looking at the banner and then at all the decorations around the school. When he spots their class's display, he smiles and compliments Hana's work, saying it stands out in a good way. Hana stares at him, her thoughts drifting back to the game she played last night. She had picked a story route with a character who looked just like Yousuke. Flustered, she thanks him and rushes off to the classroom. Inside the classroom, the teacher gives final reminders before allowing the students to head to their assigned sports areas. Hana overhears Tsutomu complaining about being assigned to table tennis while Yousuke and his friends get to play soccer. Hana, meanwhile, silently prays that Yousuke doesn't get to see her part of the tournament. The sports fest begins with all the classes doing their best to beat their rivals. Tsutomu performs unexpectedly well and secures a win, tying their class with another. His teammates then look to Hana and tell her it's her turn. Tsutomu isn't confident, assuming Hana isn't athletic until he spots her pulling out a personal racket. His eyes widen, realizing she might actually be a regular at the sport. Tsutomu watches more closely as Hana takes her position for the next rally. The opposing team serves a fast ball, but Hana reacts without hesitation, returning it cleanly. Her movements are fluid, and it doesn't take long before she scores the final point, securing the win for their team. Her classmates cheer in surprise. When Hana returns to the group, Tsutomu asks where she learned to play like that. She mentions being part of the table tennis club in middle school. The comment makes him remember his own time in his school's club. As Hana stands next to him to rest, he starts to wonder about her middle school years. Wanting to be friendly, he invites her to watch the soccer game with him during their break. But Hana doesn't even think about it, as she declines, saying she doesn't have the voice to cheer. Meanwhile, over at the soccer field, Sumire and Yousuke are in the middle of a light, easy conversation. Tsutomu arrives just in time to see them sitting side by side. He starts to raise his hand to call out to Yousuke, but pauses when he notices the smile on Sumire's face. Then Sumire bunks shoulders with Yousuke by accident and blushes, making Tsutomu's heart clench. Two girls pass by Tsutomu, whispering that the two of them look like a couple. The words hit him like a brick. His heart drops, and without thinking, he turns away. The girls glance over at him, confused by how quickly he left. Tsutomu walks back to where Hana is, who has just tucked her game away. Sitting beside her, he casually asks if she's close to Sumire or if they've ever talked about love. Hana thinks for a moment and recalls a conversation where Sumire mentioned having a friend who liked the most popular guy in class. Tsutomu realizes Sumire was talking about herself, and the guy she likes must be Yousuke. He remembers how everyone around them treated their interaction like a romantic moment. If enough people see them that way, they might actually start dating. He doesn't want that to happen, and then he remembers a talk he once had with Yousuke, where Yousuke suggested that Hana might actually be a good match for him. Holding on to that memory like a thread of hope, Tsutomu decides the solution is to get Hana and Yousuke closer together. Without any filter, he turns to Hana and asks if she'd ever considered dating Yousuke. Hana freezes, panicked by the question. She stumbles over her thoughts, worried that the idea itself might cause trouble for Yousuke. But Tsutomu doesn't stop. He tells her that she fits Yusuke's type. Soon, the others on their team overhear and start joining the conversation. Some girls disagree with Tsutomu, saying that Yusuke and Hana are too different for it to work. Hana silently dreads what might happen if Yusuke ever hears this conversation. A part of her feels he'd be nothing but disgusted. Tsutomu then promises to set up a date for Hana and Yusuke. The team lights up with excitement, immediately launching into a discussion about potential date spots and fashion tips. But while everyone is buzzing with energy, Hana is quietly scrambling for a way to stop the idea from gaining traction. Summoning her courage, she suddenly exclaims that she doesn't want to go if it's Yusuke. Her words cut through the chatter like a blade. Tsutomu instantly goes pale. He urges Hana to look behind her. Turning slowly, she spots Yusuke standing there, equally pale and visibly stunned. He quietly states that he had come by to cheer on the class's table tennis team before turning away and leaving. Hana immediately realizes the huge mistake she's just made. Her teammates, reading the mood, slip away one by one. Tsutomu stays behind and quickly apologizes, taking responsibility for what just happened. He offers to clear up the misunderstanding himself and heads off to find Yusuke. Tsutomu eventually catches up to him and invites him to return to the table tennis venue to hang out. But Yusuke declines, saying he wants to watch the basketball team instead. It's clear to Tsutomu that Yusuke is still bothered by what he overheard. Trying to smooth things over, Tsutomu explains that Hana didn't really mean what she said and was probably just nervous. But Yusuke remains unconvinced and turns down the invitation once again. Tsutomu returns to Hana and reports that he failed to explain things clearly. He says it seems like Yusuke wants to hear the explanation directly from her. He advises that she try to speak to him before his next match. Before Hana can respond, they get called to play their next game. Hana is the first to step up. As she walks to her position, she begins to think of a plan. She realizes that if she keeps winning, she can delay the inevitable talk with Yusuke. With that in mind, she gives it her all, determined to stall for as long as she can until she feels ready. During a break, Hana heads to the vending machine, wondering how much longer she can keep up the winning streak. But just as she reaches for a drink, she notices Yusuke standing right next to her. Shocked, she tries to collect her thoughts, but Yusuke abruptly turns around and walks away without giving her the chance to say anything. She convinces herself that this is how things should be. Now that Yusuke is ignoring her, she can go back to living a normal, uneventful life. Meanwhile, Yusuke returns to where he and Tetsuo are having lunch. As they eat, he quietly vents his frustration about how he deliberately walked away from Hana, even though he knew she wanted to say something. This only makes Tetsuo laugh at how much it's bothering him. Back at the table tennis area, Hana's team finally loses their match. As the others prepare to head off and watch the soccer game, Hana declines to join them, instead offering to stay behind and help out with the tennis matches. Tsutomu begins to walk away with the rest of the group, but after a few steps, Yolt tugs at him. He turns around and tries to convince her to watch the soccer match with them after all. Hana hesitates, but Tsutomu doesn't let up. He urges her again, reminding her that Yusuke is a good guy, mentioning his own troubles with him. Hana argues that their situations are different. Tsutomu and Yusuke have been friends for a while, so it's easier between them. Sensing that Hana won't act unless pushed, Tsutomu gives her a gentle shove toward the soccer field. They arrive in the middle of the match and Sumire informs them that their class is still holding on, but barely. The opponent, a senior class, is proving too tough to beat. Just as they settle in to watch, the senior team scores another goal. Hana's eyes instinctively search for Yusuke. A twinge of worry creeps in. Down on the field, Tetsuo apologizes to Yusuke and Kenta for letting the ball slip past. Sumire leads a cheer, rallying the crowd as the class throws their energy behind the players. Hana watches Yusuke closely. She doesn't say anything at first, quietly supporting him in her mind. But as the game intensifies, her voice finally breaks free as she cheers his name out loud. Yusuke turns at the sound. Her voice cuts through the noise and reaches him clearly. But the distraction causes a ball to hit Yusuke in the face. The referee calls for a timeout. Blood trickles from his nose and he quickly leaves the field to visit the nurse. Before he leaves, Sumire offers him her handkerchief. Both she and Hana notice where his attention lingers, on Hana and not her. Sumire keeps her frustration to herself, silently cursing the moment. Hana, meanwhile, feels her stomach sink, blaming herself for his injury. After the sports festival ends, the class gathers to reflect on their performance. Sumire approaches Hana, sensing that something has changed between them. She tries to invite her to join the celebration, but Hana politely declines. Left alone in the classroom, Hana moves to change the water in the flower vase. As she lifts the vase, her thoughts drift to Tsutomu. He had gone out of his way to help her, but she still hadn't apologized to Yusuke. She realizes she can't let it end this way. She still owes him an apology. Sitting down at her desk, Hana begins writing a letter. She expresses how sorry she is for the way her words may have sounded. She confesses that she actually admires him and respects his kindness. Still, she writes she feels they can only remain friends, that anything more seems impossible for now. After reading it over, Hana decides the letter will have to do. She folds it neatly and makes her way to the shoe lockers. Just as she's about to slip the envelope inside Yusuke's locker, he appears. He casually explains that he had fallen asleep in the infirmary and is just now heading home. Then he notices the letter in her hand, his name written across it. He asks if he can read it. Hana, shaken but unable to say no, hands it over. Yousuke reads it silently. When he finishes, he looks at her and confirms what he suspects, that Hana does not hate him. Hana nods and he smiles, looking relieved. She watches him smile, a blush rising to her cheeks. She speaks up again, repeating that she doesn't hate him. Struggling to explain, she blurts out that she has maximum respect for him. Then, too embarrassed to say more, she turns and runs away. Yousuke is left standing at the lockers, the letter still in hand. Her words and her retreat leave him confused. At home, Sumire grumbles inwardly about how her romance with Yousuke isn't making any progress. As she prepares her ingredients for baking, she can't help but replay the moment during the sports festival when Yusuke's eyes immediately sought out Hana instead of her. Even their new seat arrangement doesn't help. Hana is now sitting closer to Yousuke than she is. The thought makes Sumire quietly seethe with frustration over how close Hana is getting to him. Later, she shares her homemade cakes with her friends. Tomoko immediately praises her, saying that whoever ends up dating Sumire would be lucky to eat her sweets every day. Amid their chatter, they notice their friend Chinatsu zoning out. When they ask her about it, Chinatsu shyly admits that she's developed a crush on Kenta. Sumire smiles and congratulates her, but in the back of her mind, she's already plotting. She sees Chinatsu's crush as a golden opportunity since Kenta and Yousuke are close friends. Any development between Chinatsu and Kenta might create more chances for her to get close to Yousuke. Back at school, Yousuke approaches her and hands her a new pink towel with pretty patterns, a replacement for the one he ruined during the sports festival, when it was used to stop the bleeding from his nose. Sumire is genuinely delighted and thanks him enthusiastically. However, her excitement dims a little when Yousuke adds that it was Tetsuo who picked out the towel for her. He admits he doesn't know much about towels and handkerchiefs. Still, Sumire reminds herself to stay grateful. It's a step forward, and she needs to keep playing her cards right if she wants to win him over. While waiting for class to begin, Sumire discreetly observes Yousuke. She watches as he casually helps Hana pick up a pen she dropped. Jealousy bubbles up inside her. Sumire can't help but envy how easily Hana interacts with him. Her own seat is too far away for such casual conversations. Just as she's watching the two, Tetsuo takes his seat beside her, blocking her view of Yousuke. She internally sighs. Tetsuo always seems to get in her way, constantly interrupting her attempts to get closer to Yousuke. After class, a teacher announces that all club activities are suspended until after exams so students can focus on studying. Chinatsu takes the chance to invite Kenta to study with her at a nearby restaurant. He happily accepts. When he turns to ask if anyone else wants to come along, the others all quickly claim they're busy, clearly understanding that Chinatsu wants to be alone with Kenta. Yousuke, however, doesn't seem to get the hint, prompting Sumire to intervene. She tells him to just play along and agree with her. With that, Kenta and Chinatsu leave together. Tetsuo looks at the board and notices that only Sumire and his name are listed for class duty. Yusuke, still oblivious, asks what task needs to be done. Caught off guard, Sumire admits the truth that she made up the story so Chinatsu and Kenta could spend time together. It finally clicks for Yusuke, and he realizes the whole thing was a setup for romance. Seeing an opportunity, Sumire invites Yusuke to stay behind and study with her. Yusuke agrees, and Sumire excuses herself to the bathroom for a moment. Once alone, she silently celebrates for finally having Yusuke all to herself. She hopes that this moment will make him realize she has feelings for him, and maybe he'll start thinking about asking her out. As she walks back to the classroom, she takes a few calming breaths to compose herself. But when she opens the door, she finds Yusuke peering out the window. Without warning, he suddenly bolts toward the exit, quickly apologizing and promising to come back once he finishes something. Baffled by his sudden rush, Sumire approaches the window to see what he had been looking at. Down below, she spots Hana, frantically trying to clean up a mess of fallen potted plants. Sumire watches from above, biting back her frustration. Once again, she feels like she's losing to Hana. A moment later, Tetsuo walks in, asking about class duty and where Yusuke went. Sumire forces a smile and tells him that she already took care of it. As for Yusuke, she claims he went down to help Hana, who dropped some seedlings. Casually, she tries to steer the conversation toward Yusuke's feelings for Hana. If she can confirm them, maybe she can twist things to her advantage. She also hopes to get Tetsuo on her side. Tetsuo studies her for a moment before bluntly asking if she has a crush on Yusuke. He then adds firmly that he has no intention of getting involved if she's scheming something underhanded. Sumire is momentarily stunned but quickly masks it with feigned innocence. Tetsuo, however, doesn't hold back. He tells her plainly that she'll never win Yusuke over if she keeps trying to manipulate people or meddle in other people's relationships. That hits a nerve. Sumire snaps, her carefully crafted facade slipping away. She admits she doesn't want to show any weakness or ugliness to the people she loves. What she's doing, she claims, is strategy, and every girl does it. She turns to leave, deciding to go home rather than let Yusuke see her like this. Before walking out, she warns Tetsuo not to spread rumors about her temper. No one would believe him anyway. She storms off while Tetsuo, now alone, mutters that girls are a pain. During swimming class, Hana feels uncomfortably self-conscious. To her, summer is the worst season for an ugly girl. Meanwhile, Sumire is surrounded by friends and even gets invited to another pool trip once summer break begins. Watching her glow, Hana struggles to lift herself from the water, overwhelmed by Sumire's brilliance. Inside the changing room, Hana pulls out a bottle she assumes is deodorant and frantically sprays a generous amount all over her body. Sumire notices and casually remarks that Hana is probably overdoing it with the body spray. Confused, Hana checks the label and realizes she's made a mistake. She takes a sniff of her own skin and instantly regrets it. Sumire suggests she head somewhere with better ventilation so the stench doesn't become suffocating. Meanwhile, back in the classroom, the boys grumble about the sweltering weather and complain about being placed in a different swimming class from the girls. Yusuke offers a neutral, innocent reason for the separation, but Kenta and Tsutomu reveal their true disappointment is because they just wanted to see their classmates in swimwear. Yusuke looks at them in disappointment, clearly unimpressed. He doesn't want to think of his friends that way, and the guys start teasing him, joking about what kind of girls he might want to see. Mid-conversation, one of them notices the wind picking up and moves to close the window, only to reveal Hana standing quietly behind it. Panic sets in among the boys. They're mortified that Hana might have overheard their entire conversation. But Hana quickly assures them she only caught a little bit and promises not to tell anyone. Yusuke, now flustered, blushes with embarrassment. He hates that Hana heard them speaking so crudely. Tsutomu, however, misinterprets his reaction and wonders if Yusuke is in love with Hana. At that moment, Sumire walks into the classroom and sees Yusuke's red face. She instantly assumes Hana is the reason behind his reaction and begins to see inwardly. As class begins, Yusuke remains distracted, still worried about what Hana might have heard. He decides to let it go for now and turns to hand her the class handouts. Hana reaches out to take them, but she awkwardly leans back, trying to maintain distance between them. Yusuke notices this and wrongly assumes she's avoiding him. In truth, Hana is just deeply self-conscious about how bad she smells from the earlier perfume incident. Later in the afternoon, rain pours heavily as students rush to leave the school. Hana heads to the umbrella rack and discovers hers is missing. She steps close to the exit, unsure of how she'll get home. Yusuke notices her standing awkwardly and calls out. When she doesn't have an umbrella, he starts to offer to share his, but hesitates midway. He panics, thinking Hana might find the idea uncomfortable or unpleasant. On the other hand, Hana sees his unfinished offer and assumes he must have changed his mind, not wanting to share with her after all. She quickly tells him it's fine, insists her house is nearby, and starts walking down the school steps into the rain. Yusuke catches up to Hana, grabbing her hand to stop her from walking further into the rain. Without hesitation, he insists that she take his umbrella. Hana tries to refuse, her protest soft and unsure, but Yusuke stands firm. He tells her he's worried and that he doesn't mind getting soaked, but Hana, as a girl, shouldn't have to walk home drenched. Hana gazes at him, moved by his sincerity. Yusuke notices and grows curious, asking about the way she's looking at him. Embarrassed, Hana mutters something about misinterpreting the moment. Flustered, she even slaps her own cheek to chase the thoughts away. She takes the umbrella, stiffly offering thanks and promises to return it as soon as she can, then hurries off. Yusuke stays in place, staring at the hand he had used to grab hers. He quietly wishes he could figure out how to talk to Hana properly. Lately, he's been getting worse at it. He starts the walk home, drenched and thoughtful. Just as he begins to settle into his internal monologue, a familiar voice calls his name. At first, he assumes it's just his imagination, until he sees Hana riding her bike toward him, clad in a raincoat. She stops in front of him and hurriedly returns the umbrella, apologizing for the delay. Yusuke blinks, surprised she came back just for that. Though flustered, he thanks her. They decide to walk home together. Hana hesitates at first, guilty that he's already soaked and now has to walk more in drenched clothes. Still, she can't bring herself to refuse him again. As they walk side by side, Hana subtly creates a gap between them. Yusuke notices and gently questions her about it. She admits that she doesn't smell very good today. Yusuke smiles, relieved that it's not rejection or avoidance. They continue walking, the silence between them no longer awkward, both privately thinking the other is a surprisingly unpredictable person. Days later, Sumire and Hana find themselves spying on Yusuke. Earlier, while Hana was tending to the classroom flowers, she discovered a letter addressed to him. She shared it with Sumire, who was stunned to find that someone else had attempted to confess to Yusuke. Though Sumire wanted to tell Hana to throw it away, she held back, reminding herself of the image she needed to protect. The two of them decided to hand over the letter to Yousuke, eager to hear his thoughts. To their dismay, Yousuke completely misreads the situation, believing it to be a challenge to a duel. Without hesitation, he says he'll go meet the sender, leaving the two girls speechless. Concerned he might actually pick a fight, Sumire suggests they follow from a distance. That's how they end up spying on Yousuke from behind a building. Soon, two girls approach Yousuke as he waits for the fight. Hana and Sumire try to listen in, but the shrill chirping of cicadas drowns out everything. Just then, Hana notices a cicada crawling on Sumire's back. She warns her calmly, but Sumire stiffens. Hana tries to brush it off, but the insect shifts and crawls up, prompting Sumire to let out a sharp, involuntary scream. The sound draws everyone's attention. Spotting the two hiding figures, Yousuke runs over to them, confused. Sumire quickly covers their tracks with a lame excuse that they came to help him in the fight. Yousuke smiles at them, and he tells them there was no fight, just a misunderstanding. Hana and Sumire relax, both smiling to themselves. They knew it wasn't a duel, but a confession. One morning, while reading a magazine about developing abs, Tsutomu loudly swears that today will be the day he finally gets Sumire's number. At school, he decides to ask Hana for help with his plan. Hana tries to insist that he should approach people who are closer to Sumire, but Tsutomu refuses. He says it has to be her, and that all she needs to do is go along with whatever he has planned. When they return to the classroom, Tsutomu wastes no time and announces that the class should hold a barbecue party for summer break. Hana realizes this is her cue. Before she can react, Sumire immediately agrees, saying it's a great idea. Tsutomu is stunned that the first person to support him is Sumire herself. What he doesn't realize is that she is only going along with the plan as a way to get closer to Yousuke. Fired up, Tsutomu sees this as his chance to show off, but he is quickly blocked by the louder voices of other male classmates. To Sumire's delight, Yousuke confirms that he will be joining the barbecue. Her excitement quickly dims, however, when she learns that Tetsuo will also be attending. Hana approaches Tsutomu, happy that Sumire had agreed to the idea. But before she can say anything else, Tsutomu suddenly declares that he and Hana will be the ones organizing the event. The classroom falls silent at his announcement, and Hana panics, realizing she has been dragged into a responsibility she never agreed to. Yousuke, shocked that Hana is helping, volunteers to help. Sumire, seeing this as the perfect chance to be near him, also raises her hand to join. Tsutomu, thrilled at the thought of being around Sumire, immediately suggests they continue their planning at his house, claiming his parents aren't home. To his horror, when they arrive, his mother is still there. She scolds him right away for neglecting his chores. Tsutomu hurriedly tells the others to wait and argues with her, reminding her she had said she would be out. When things finally calm down, Tsutomu apologizes as everyone settles in his room. Just as they begin to settle, his mother barges in again, scolding him for being a bad host. She brings snacks for the group herself and embarrasses him further by holding up the fitness magazine he had left in the bathroom. Once the interruptions are over, Yousuke naturally takes charge of the meeting. The discussion flows smoothly under his guidance, and the group quickly agrees on activities and settles the matter of food. By the end, the plans are complete, but Tsutomu and Sumire both wear forced smiles, disappointed they never got the chance to ask for their crush's number. Hana, however, is simply relieved that the meeting ended without further disaster. Yousuke excuses himself to use the toilet, and Tsutomu quickly signals to Hana to leave the room as well. He wants to use the opportunity to ask for Sumire's number. Hana, stiff and awkward, follows along and excuses herself too. Finally, alone with Sumire, Tsutomu struggles to find his words. Luckily, Sumire notices an album by a band she knows and immediately starts a conversation. Delighted that they share the same interest, Tsutomu talks enthusiastically about the band and their projects. In his mind, he thanks the band and even promises to become their biggest fan starting today. Their talk flows easily until Sumire suddenly suggests that they also think of some recreational activity for the barbecue. Tsutomu starts brainstorming, and when his eyes land on another album of the same band, an idea sparks in his mind. Meanwhile, Yousuke heads back toward the room when he spots Hana lingering just outside the door. Hana panics, knowing Tsutomu would want more time with Sumire, and quickly tries to stall him with small talk. She begins rambling about her excitement for the barbecue and even compliments Tsutomu's optimism and energy. Something about her words stirs Yousuke, who interrupts her. But instead of finishing his thought, he simply suggests that they rejoin the others. Back in the room, Tsutomu is frustrated that he still wasn't able to ask for Sumire's number. Before he can dwell on it, Yousuke suddenly proposes that they create a group chat so everyone can stay in touch. The class immediately agrees. Both Tsutomu and Sumire are secretly pleased, since it means they finally have their crush's number. Hana, however, decides to opt out, saying she only uses email. Sumire kindly offers to contact her if anything comes up. Eventually, the group goes their separate ways. Before leaving, Tsutomu tells Hana to stay behind and admits that he is planning to confess to Sumire on the day of the barbecue. At home, Hana reflects on everything. She always thought scenes like this only existed in shoujo manga and games, yet now she is caught in the middle of one. But then she remembers Tsutomu's earlier request to keep Yousuke away from Sumire so his confession could go smoothly. Her mother appears just then, showing her a batch of rice balls with pickled plums she prepared for Hana's classmates. Hana pales, already dreading all the socializing she will need to do to hand them out. Meanwhile, at Tetsuo's place, his family pesters him about the barbecue trip, even teasing him about tagging along. Kizuki is there too, hanging out as usual. Suddenly, Tetsuo gets a message from Tsutomu telling him to wear black. Moments later, Yusuke arrives at the door, announcing that he's there to pick up Kizuki. The next day, Hana feels pleased with how the breeze moves near their chosen spot for the barbecue. She notices Yusuke setting up the grill and makes an attempt to approach him, but before she can, Sumire and Tsutomu rush over, full of excitement, and block her path. Hana steps back, quietly watching the three interact until Kizuki notices her and walks up. He reveals that he is joining them to observe people for his research project. Soon, more of their classmates begin arriving. Yusuke apologizes for his brother's sudden presence, but the group welcomes him easily, many even finding Kizuki adorable. Sumire, determined to use the opportunity, begins plotting to win Kizuki over so she can get closer to Yusuke. She tries to start a conversation, but Kizuki immediately walks past her and heads to Hana, demanding tea. Remembering their deal, Hana quickly complies, which earns Kizuki a smack from Yusuke. Sumire fumes as she realizes Hana already seems to be on friendly terms with Kizuki. When preparations for the barbecue begin, Hana makes sure to keep Yusuke busy and away from Sumire. Their classmates notice how closely she sticks by his side, and Hana starts worrying they might think she has feelings for him. The group, however, only asks if Yusuke is bossing her around. Yusuke immediately defends himself. With Yusuke distracted, Tsutomu signals to Hana that it's time to move forward with their plan. They exchange a series of strange hand signals, confusing Kizuki, who has been quietly observing them. Finally, they settle on an agreement. Tsutomu suggests dividing tasks. Sumire is placed in the preparation team while Hana and Yusuke are assigned to Frisbee. The rest of the class is free to help wherever needed. The Frisbee game begins, but Hana struggles to throw properly, sending the disc flying all over the place. Soon the entire Frisbee group chases after it. The cooking team can't help but watch with admiration at how much fun the others are having. Tsutomu tries to show off by lighting the grill but ends up embarrassing himself. Eventually, everyone enjoys the barbecue together. The group notices how close Kenta and Shinatsu seem, especially when Shinatsu helps wipe barbecue sauce off Kenta's face. Tsutomu, hoping for the same from Sumire, smears sauce on his own cheek, but Tetsuo simply hands him a wet tissue, forcing him to clean up himself. Kizuki finishes his report and announces he'll head home, but the group insists he stay. Kizuki looks at Yusuke, who gives him an approving smile, silently telling him it's fine to stay. After eating, Tsutomu announces the start of their recreational activity. The organizers, joined by Tetsuo, pull out water guns and goggles. Tsutomu grins and declares that everyone just needs to avoid getting wet till the end of the song. Kenta complains when the organizers recruit Tetsuo, but once Tsutomu announces that the prize will be Sumire's cookies, the other team quickly agrees to play. Soon, everyone arms themselves with water guns and starts spraying at one another. Amid the chaos, it doesn't go unnoticed that Kenta rushes to protect Shinatsu, when she nearly gets hit by Tsutomu. Eventually, the organizers win. Tetsuo happily munches on the cookies while the others collapse onto the ground, sitting or lying down in exhaustion. Hana takes this as the perfect opportunity to bring out the rice balls she prepared. Before she can, Sumire steps forward with her own set of rice balls, offering them to everyone. The group lights up, happily accepting her food. As the others eat, Yusuke notices Hana slipping away toward the bags and quietly follows. He finds her trying to hide a small container of rice balls. When he asked about it, Hana explains that her mother had prepared them, but since there's already plenty of food, she plans to just eat them later at home. Yusuke smiles, insisting on trying one. Reluctantly, Hana hands him a rice ball. Nearby, Tsutomu catches sight of their interaction and thinks this is the perfect chance to score some of Sumire's homemade rice balls for himself. But when he turns toward her, he notices her gaze fixed elsewhere. Before he can act, Tetsuo casually takes a rice ball from Sumire, praising its taste. He even reaches for another, and Tsutomu marvels at how effortlessly Tetsuo interacts with her. Frustrated, Tsutomu rushes over and begins stuffing Sumire's rice balls into his mouth in an attempt to get her attention. He ends up overeating and soon feels sick. Hana approaches him as he lies down and offers stomach medicine. He accepts it, covering his face with his hat, and apologizes. He feels miserable that his plans keep falling apart despite Hana doing her part so well. He knows bitterly that Sumire never seems to notice him, and even when she does, it's always when he's making a fool of himself. He wonders if Hana secretly wants to laugh at him, but she quietly promises she won't. Her sincerity surprises him, and he swears that he'll work hard to become more manly and cool over the summer. Meanwhile, Kizuki continues jotting down his observations. At one point, he pauses and notices Yusuke watching Hana and Tsutomu with a thoughtful gaze. As evening settles in, Tsutomu regains his usual energy. But during preparations for fireworks, Hana accidentally trips and spills water all over the fireworks they were supposed to light. Horrified, she quickly gets up and apologizes profusely. Her classmates, however, are more concerned about her well-being. Noticing a scratch on her arm, they instruct her to wash it properly and reassure her not to worry since fireworks can always be done another time. While most of the set is ruined, they realize that the sparklers are still usable. The group tries to make the best of it, but Yusuke grows distracted, wondering why Hana hasn't returned yet. Kizuki hands him 2 sparklers he discovered to still be intact. Meanwhile, Hana sits at a distance, watching the group from afar. She decides against rejoining them, convinced they might secretly be upset with her for ruining their final activity. To her surprise, Yusuke approaches and quietly offers her one of the sparklers. The two light them together. Hana notices hers starting to burn out, but Yusuke moves his closer until hers flares back to life. He says he wants to enjoy time with everyone again, and Hana is taken aback to realize that she is being included in that thought. He reassures her that she is always welcome, especially since summer is far from over. Their moment is interrupted when Kizuki announces that one of the larger fireworks had survived. Everyone gathers as it shoots into the night sky, brilliant colors blooming above them. None of them notice Kizuki had sketched a picture of Hana and Yusuke, side by side, their sparklers glowing in the dark. May finally arrives, marking 3 months since Hana announced plans to celebrate both Tetsu and Yusuke's birthdays. With Yusuke's birthday just a few days away, she wonders if she should prepare a gift. They aren't especially close, and she worries he might refuse a present if she gives him one. Remembering that gift-giving is a common theme in shoujo manga, Hana flips through several volumes hoping for inspiration. After reading a few scenes, she realizes making or knitting something like a scarf might be too difficult. She decides instead to ask Kizuki for advice. Hana shows him the birthday coupons Yusuke had given her for the restaurant where he works. Kizuki suggests she make coupons for something like a shoulder massage, but Hana replies that she would rather give a ready-made product. Ritsuko overhears their conversation and joins in. She admits she envies them since they still enjoy celebrating birthdays, while older people tend to stop. She casually mentions that her birthday is tomorrow. Hearing this, Kizuki offers to accompany Hana on a shopping trip to find Yusuke's gift. They wander through the mall together. Hana shares that she wants to give Yusuke something consumable. As they walk, she finds herself thinking about how reliable Kizuki is. He takes her to a bath supply store, and Hana wonders if Yusuke enjoys bathing as a hobby. They stop at a display of bath bombs. Kizuki explains that these particular ones are great for people who come home tired from work. Though his thoughts are on Ritsuko, Hana assumes he is being considerate of Yusuke, who must return exhausted from his part-time job. As they browse, Kizuki overhears a girl complaining that she dislikes the bath bomb she received as a gift. The disappointment in her tone makes him hesitate. When Hana selects 2 bath bombs, Kizuki abruptly tells her they should look elsewhere and guides her out of the store. Hana suggests food as another option, but is let down to hear that Kizuki has no idea what Yusuke likes to eat. They drift into the sweets section, where Kizuki's eyes settle on some bright jars of jelly. Hana comments that jellies are perfect for summer, but Kizuki adds that they should pick something with low calories. He thinks of Ritsuko's tendency to overindulge, while Hana interprets it as a secret behind Yusuke's slim figure. After some thought, they both conclude that snacks may not be the best choice either and continue to wander the mall. Eventually, they take a break on a bench. Hana notices Kizuki looks tired and feels guilty for dragging him around. Spotting a stationery store nearby, she suddenly suggests a notebook as Yusuke's gift. Kizuki agrees that it's a good idea. Smiling, Hana tells him to rest while she goes in to make the purchase. She adds another request and asks if Kizuki can be the one to hand the present to Yusuke on her behalf. Kizuki feels confused by the request but accepts anyway since Hana doesn't want to intrude during Oban, which also falls on Yusuke's birthday. As Hana heads to the shop, Kizuki decides to wander around and look for a present for Ritsuko. He notices a floral hair tie and thinks it would look beautiful on her, but he pulls back when he sees the price as it is far beyond his budget. When Hana returns to the bench and notices that Kizuki is gone, she soon finds him inside a store and realizes he has been shopping for Ritsuko. She offers to contribute a little so he can buy the hair accessory, but Kizuki refuses. He wants his gift to come only from him, believing that asking for help defeats the purpose. Instead, he decides to settle on buying her some hand cream. Once both of them finish shopping, Kizuki waits for Hana to hand him the notebook so he can give it to Yousuke. However, Hana suddenly changes her mind and decides to give it herself. She reasons that Kizuki has shown her how meaningful gift-giving is, so she wants to do it properly. Hana praises him for being so mature, though Kizuki still feels guilty about not being able to get Ritsuko something nicer. Still, he smiles at Hana and soon asks for her ID so they can stay in touch. Since Hana doesn't have the application, Kizuki instructs her to install it, and they add each other immediately. Afterwards, Kizuki leaves, and once Hana heads home, she receives a message from him wishing her good luck. The next day, Ritsuko is delighted when Kizuki gives her the hand cream. Seeing her smile fills him with relief, and he quietly swears to start saving so he can give her a better present in the future. Meanwhile, Hana is at home, still thinking of ways to give her notebook to Yousuke. She debates whether to hand it over during work or school, but worries that would draw too much attention. Deciding she needs help, Hana reaches out to Kizuki, who replies that she should give it now since Yousuke is at home. Hana realizes it may be the best opportunity, and she begins preparing herself to head to his house. But before she can leave, her mother calls out and asks her to bring a rag. Hana finds her in the kitchen kneeling over an oil-stained rug. Offering to help, Hana immediately begins working to remove the stains. Meanwhile, Kizuki sits at home, restless, silently cheering Hana on to succeed today. When the doorbell rings, he assumes it must be her and asks Yousuke to answer it. However, when Yousuke opens the door, it is not Hana at all but Yusuke's group of male friends arriving to celebrate Yusuke's birthday. Kizuki feels upset that Yousuke didn't tell him about his plans and decides to let Hana know about the setback. Meanwhile, Hana is already on her way to their house but notices a wallet on the ground. She hesitates, debating whether to ignore it or take it to the police station. Her conscience wins out, reminding her that Yousuke would probably do the right thing in this situation. With that in mind, she picks up the wallet and heads for the police station. Back at Yusuke's, the celebration continues as he begins opening gifts. From Toshiyuki, he receives a tumbler, while Kenta gives him a sparkling jacket. Then, Tsutomu hands him a heavy photo album, which the others lightly ridicule, but Yousuke insists he is grateful and promises to make use of it. The group exchanges smiles, hinting that they have a bigger surprise in store. Just then, the doorbell rings. When Yousuke opens the door, he finds Sumire and her friends cheerfully wishing him a happy birthday. Shinatsu explains that they had heard about the occasion through Kenta and wanted to do something for him. Since it was so sudden, Sumire adds they decided to bring a box of ready-made sweets. Yusuke, thankful for the thought, invites them inside. Wanting to accommodate everyone, he brings them into the living room rather than crowding them into his small bedroom. As the guests settle in, Sumire notices Kizuki observing from the side. She pauses to greet him, but Kizuki only sighs and walks away, leaving her surprised. He can't help but wonder why Hana hasn't arrived yet. Meanwhile, rain begins to fall, leaving Hana stranded under a nearby shelter as she waits for the weather to clear. Her visit to the police station had taken longer than she expected since the man who lost the wallet had been so grateful. She reaches into her pocket for her phone to message Kizuki, but quickly realizes she left her phone at home. Frustrated, she silently hopes the rain stops soon so she can continue on her way. Back at the party, everyone gathers in the living room, chatting and laughing as they admire Yusuke's gifts. During the conversation, Toshiyuki realizes that Tetsuo and Hana are both absent. Yousuke explains that Tetsuo usually returns to his hometown during Oban. The girls then mention that they hadn't been able to contact Hana since the celebration was arranged so suddenly. Tsutomu suddenly remembers that Sumire has Hana's number and asks her to contact Hana, encouraging her to wish Yusuke a happy birthday. Though outwardly smiling, Sumire secretly hesitates. She doesn't want to help Hana and Yusuke grow closer. She offers to call since she's in front of a lot of people. Everyone waits as the phone rings, but after several rings, it becomes clear that Hana isn't going to answer. The room grows quiet until Tsutomu apologizes for souring the mood. Yusuke brushes it off, assuring him that it's fine. Yusuke thinks Hana has probably forgotten about his birthday, but he doesn't want to remind her and risk making her worry. He reasons that this is probably for the best, even if part of him feels disappointed. Sumire, however, notices the faint sadness in his eyes behind the smile he forces. Meanwhile, Kizuki scrolls through his messages with Hana, still bothered by the fact that she hasn't arrived. A heavy feeling grows in his chest, and his thoughts begin to wander. He imagines that Hana might have gotten into some kind of accident on the way. The thought unsettles him, but he quickly shakes it off, telling himself he's being ridiculous. At last, the rain lets up. Hana immediately dashes down the sidewalk, determined to make it to Yusuke's house as quickly as she can. Just then, a truck passes by, splashing water all over her. She stops in her tracks, staring down in horror at the soggy package in her hands. Nearby, a window shows her reflection clearly. Her clothes are drenched, streaked with mud from the splash. The present she worked hard to prepare looks pitiful in its soaked wrapping. The sight breaks her spirit. Instead of pressing forward, she makes a painful decision and turns around, heading back home. When she finally arrives, her mother greets her at the door, immediately pointing out that her phone has been ringing nonstop. Hana hurries to check it and finds several missed calls, some from Kizuki and others from Sumire, all asking about her whereabouts and telling her about Yusuke's party. Her stomach twists with regret. Her mother notices the mud and water all over her clothes and asks where she has been, concerned about her disheveled appearance. Hana avoids answering, instead asking for a paper bag she can use. Hana then decides she wants to go out again. At Yusuke's place, Yusuke is busy cleaning up the dishes when Kizuki approaches. His expression is serious as he tells Yusuke that Hana had originally planned to visit them today, but now she isn't answering her phone. Yusuke barely has time to process this when Kizuki's phone suddenly rings. Seeing Hana's name flash on the screen, Kizuki answers immediately, relieved to hear her voice and know nothing bad has happened. He wastes no time handing the phone to Yusuke, insisting he go meet her. Though confused, Yusuke obeys and runs out of the house while answering Hana's call. She tells him she's waiting by the nearby park. Without hesitation, he tells her to stay put as he's already on the way. When Yusuke arrives, he spots Hana right away and calls out to her. She looks startled but quickly thrusts a plain paper bag toward him, apologizing for its condition and wishing him a happy birthday. She explains that the gift inside had gotten dirty in the rain and she didn't want him to see it in such a state. Yusuke's face warms as he takes the bag. His smile softens as he thanks her, admitting that he had honestly thought she had forgotten about his birthday. Seeing that she went through so much trouble just to deliver his present fills him with genuine happiness. Hana, watching his expression, feels her own heart skip a beat. Yusuke tells her that he'll make sure to celebrate her birthday next year as well, but Hana insists that today is about him and he shouldn't think about her. Shyly, Yusuke asks for her ID, explaining that Kizuki already has it and he wants to be able to contact her too. Hana gives him her information without hesitation. When Yusuke's face brightens even more at this small exchange, Hana feels as though she is the one who has just received the best present of all. During the summer, Yusuke brings home groceries when he notices a poster about the summer festival happening tomorrow. He wonders if there will be fireworks, remembering fondly how he and Hana lit sparklers earlier in the season. He had already messaged his friends, inviting them all to the festival, so he checks his phone in his room to see if there are any replies. Unfortunately, everyone is unavailable, either sick or busy with other plans. Just as he is about to accept that he'll be going alone, Hana replies that she's free and can join him. His face instantly lights up, but then Tsutomu's words about being alone with the girl come back to him. He rushes to Kizuki, asking if he can come along with him and Hana. Kizuki only gives him a bored look and asks why he can't just go with Hana alone. Yusuke slumps to the ground, feeling defeated. Later, during his bath, he wonders if he should tell Hana that it will just be the two of them. But he worries that doing so might scare her off, leaving him alone for the festival. The next day, he waits for Hana and notices people staring at him. Before long, Hana arrives in a yukata and Yusuke is momentarily stunned. They both grow shy, relieved to see that they are both wearing yukata, even if it was their parents' decision. Finally, Yusuke admits that it will only be the two of them. Hana is surprised, but they continue their evening together regardless. As they walk, Hana suddenly asks if they can take the long way, and they end up in an arcade area in front of a photo booth. She shows Yusuke the photo coin she received from Tetsuo, explaining that it's only valid today. Yusuke's eyes soften, relieved that Hana doesn't seem to mind being with him, but he is caught off guard when she offers that he use the coin instead. He suggests that they both take photos and they end up with awkward shots together. Yusuke carries the copies as they walk, admitting that the photos turned out cute and that it's his first time in a photo booth. Hana tries to calm herself, convincing herself that Yusuke is simply happy with the photo booth experience and not necessarily because of their photos. Yusuke spots Kenta and Shinatsu not too far away and tries to call out to them, but Hana panics and stops him. She explains that they're probably on a date and it would be better not to bother them. They visit a stall that sells masks and decide to put them on in case they run into Kenta and Shinatsu. Continuing their evening, they eat shaved ice and play festival games. Hana excels in a cookie-cutting game, and later, while eating a candied apple, Yusuke points out that her lips have become shiny from the coating. Both of them grow embarrassed by his words. Suddenly, someone calls out to Yusuke. They quickly pull their masks over their faces, but when Yusuke realizes it's his middle school friends, he relaxes and greets them. He moves to introduce Hana, but as she removes her mask, she notices their expressions turn uneasy. Hana quietly tells Yusuke she'll step aside so he can catch up with his friends. The girls whisper that her attitude is rude, which prompts Yusuke to defend her. One of his male friends throws an arm around him and asks if Hana is his girlfriend. Yusuke tries to deny it, but the boy laughs and wonders aloud why Yusuke couldn't find a cuter girl, saying Hana doesn't look pretty. Standing off to the side, Hana overhears everything. The words sting, and she can't help but recall an incident with one of her male classmates back in middle school. Yusuke, however, declares that he wants to be with Hana. He pulls away from his old friends, grabs her hand, and runs off with her. Meanwhile, a gal named Saya arrives at the festival, excitedly chatting with her friends over the phone. She also happens to be from Yusuke's middle school. Her friends mention that they ran into Yusuke and his girlfriend, which surprises her. Out of the corner of her eye, she spots someone who looks like Yusuke running past, but she brushes it off and focuses on meeting up with her group. Yusuke rushes past people, still upset over how his old friends immediately misjudged Hana. Hana eventually makes him stop, apologizing for being rude and suggesting that she should go home so he can enjoy the festival with others. She thanks him for the evening, admitting that spending time with him at the festival has made her happy. Yusuke's eyes soften. He gently removes her mask, telling her that he wants to spend the rest of the festival with her, firmly asking her to stay by his side. Hana's eyes glisten with unshed tears as she agrees to remain with him. The fireworks begin, drawing everyone's attention to the sky. Even people outside the festival are treated to the sight if they look up. Yusuke and Hana move to a more private spot to watch the rest of the show, and both admit they're happy to experience watching fireworks together again. Yusuke steals a glance at Hana and feels his face heat up, so he hides beneath his mask. Quietly, he admits to himself that he thinks Hana is the cutest girl he has ever met. Not too far away, a guy notices them and recognizes them both. Summer eventually comes to an end and school starts again. Sumire approaches Hana, but Tsutomu also joins them. They both stare at him until Hana points out that he looks thinner. Tsutomu is pleased that Hana noticed, and Hana wonders if working on his appearance is part of his plan to become manlier. Soon, others also compliment him, and he takes it all in, never admitting that he lost weight because of his illness. Yusuke enters the classroom and greets everyone, with his friends greeting him back. Hana decides to greet him too, but she accidentally bites her tongue, messing up her words. Yusuke smiles at her gently and greets her, making Hana nervous since this is the first time she's seen him since the festival. Classes begin, and their teacher announces that they will be getting a transfer student. Soon, a tall blonde girl walks in and introduces herself. She immediately notices Yusuke and Tetsuo, expressing her delight at being in the same class as them. Her familiarity with both boys makes Hana and Sumire wonder what her relationship is with Yusuke and Tetsuo. During break, Saya immediately goes to Yusuke, happy to see that he hasn't changed much since they last met. She then asks about his girlfriend, which shocks the friends nearby who overhear. Yusuke reacts with surprise, clearly not aware that people think he has a girlfriend. Hana looks down, her heart sinking at the idea of Yusuke being with someone else. She wonders what kind of girl his girlfriend might be. Saya explains that her friends told her they saw Yusuke on a date with a girl during the festival. Hana's face pales as she realizes people think she's Yusuke's girlfriend. Yusuke quickly turns his face away, claiming Saya has the wrong idea. Saya eyes him suspiciously, unconvinced by his evasive response until the teacher calls the class to attention for the morning ceremony. Later, in the women's restroom, Hana scrolls through her phone, wondering how Yusuke is feeling. She worries that he won't appreciate rumors about having a girlfriend spreading around campus. She hears voices outside the cubicle and realizes that rumors about Yusuke having a girlfriend are already spreading. The girls in the bathroom chat about how surprised they are, though they assume his girlfriend is Saya. They admit they're a little disappointed, saying they didn't think Yusuke was into easy-looking girls. Hana exits the cubicle and tells the girls they can use it now. They refuse, saying they don't need it, and leave. Hana breathes a sigh of relief, goes to wash her hands, and heads out. As she does, Saya steps out of another cubicle, staring curiously at her retreating form. After school, Tsutomu puts on a detective hat, claiming his mission is to uncover who Yusuke's girlfriend is. He invites Hana to join him, but she declines, saying Yusuke already explained it was a misunderstanding, and as his friend, Tsutomu should believe him. Tsutomu argues that, as his friend, he's also curious about this mystery girlfriend. Saya overhears their conversation and decides to join in. After a brief introduction, she insists they call her by her nickname. Tsutomu and Hana find her overly friendly, and Tsutomu worries she might be too much for them to handle. Spotting Sumire nearby, he invites her to join, and she readily agrees since she's also curious about the rumored girlfriend. Hana, however, feels this whole situation won't end well. Together, they head to the station. Tsutomu suggests hailing Yusuke, or at least finding out what he did during the summer festival. To their surprise, Saya says she heard from her friends that Yusuke went to the arcade with a girl, and she proudly shows them her group chat about it. The three are shocked to learn Saya is so well connected. Saya adds that she's surprised Yusuke also chose a romantic spot at the festival, noting that many couples are seen there. Tsutomu feels betrayed, remembering how Yusuke once claimed to know nothing about romance, yet suddenly over the summer he's acting like an expert. In his mind, he pictures Yusuke fixing a girl's sandals and charming her into going to his place. Sumire is filled with regret. If she hadn't been busy that day, she could have been the one beside Yusuke. She imagines what he might have said to her, sinking deeper into her own regret. Noticing her pale expression, Saya asks if she's alright, but Sumire brushes it off as the heat. Worried, Hana immediately buys a drink from the vending machine and hands it to her, and Sumire accepts it gratefully. Tsutomu wants to learn more about the girl, so he asks Saya if her friends had given her any other details. Saya recalls that they mentioned the girl looked like a parlor child. Slowly, their eyes drift toward Hana. They end up spying on Yusuke while he works with Sumire and Hana distracted by a cat. Meanwhile, Saya and Tsutomu peer through the window, hoping to spot a girl who matches the description. Tsutomu takes the chance to ask Saya about her relationship with Yusuke, but she refuses to answer, claiming it's a secret. They regroup with Sumire and Hana, reporting that they didn't see anyone fitting the description. Deciding they might get caught if they linger, they all move away from the area. Hana feels relieved, thinking it seems no one will discover that she was the one who went out with Yusuke during the festival. However, they bump into Kizuki, who is running errands for the flower shop. Saya instantly recognizes him and asks if he knows who Yusuke went out with during the summer festival. Hana pales, hoping Kizuki will take the hint and keep quiet. Instead, Kizuki bluntly says he knows Yusuke went out with Hana that evening. Hana freezes in place since her secret is now out. As Kizuki leaves to return to work, she slowly turns to the group, bows, and admits that she is the girl. Tsutomu is shocked that it was her all along, and Sumire asks how she managed to get Yusuke's number. Hana apologizes, explaining it wasn't a date at all. Yusuke had invited everyone, but since they were all busy, it ended up being just the two of them. Saya studies her closely, recalling the conversation she overheard in the women's restroom. She realizes Yusuke's type is actually Hana, remembering she had also seen them at the festival. Her mood brightens and she decides to treat everyone to drinks, even giving Hana a cute nickname. Hana is shocked by her sudden friendliness again, but also finds her dazzling and amazing. The next day at school, Hana spots Saya in the restroom putting on makeup. She admires her, thinking she looks so mature. Saya notices Hana watching and wonders aloud if she's interested in makeup. Without waiting for an answer, she offers to do Hana's makeup and begins working on her face. But the more she applies, the more nervous she grows. When she finally stops, she apologizes. Hana looks in the mirror and sees her face caked with makeup that doesn't suit her. One day at school, Saya approaches Yusuke and compliments him on how much more mature he seems since they last met. Seeing Yusuke grow uncomfortable, Tsutomu steps in and offers his own thoughts on what Yusuke's time with Hana might have meant. Yusuke tries once more to explain that nothing special happened when he went to the festival with Hana, only the usual things one would do there. But his expression lingers as he recalls watching the fireworks with her. His face reddens and both Saya and Tsutomu take notice. Nearby, Sumire stands frozen by the door, listening to their conversation. When her classmates greet her, she quickly fixes her expression into a sweet smile and makes her way to her seat. Once there, she scolds herself for not taking the chance to grow closer to Yusuke during the summer. She remembers Saya's words and begins to think they might hold the key to Yusuke's heart. Looking over at Saya and the boys, she recalls her saying that Yusuke likes nice and great girls. With determination in her eyes, she decides to become Yusuke's type so she can be perfect for him. Throughout the morning, Sumire puts effort into being extra kind to her classmates. Tetsuo notices the sudden change and grows suspicious. She keeps up the act until lunch break, proud of herself for maintaining it. But Yusuke doesn't seem to notice her gestures at all, leaving her irritated. Frustrated, she grumbles under her breath as she steps out to wash her handkerchief. There she sees Tetsuo washing his chopsticks beside her. He casually comments on her recent behavior, comparing her to a cat trying to get attention. Before Sumire can argue back, Saida comes around the corner, apologizing for bumping into Tetsuo earlier and offering a peace gesture. Saya notices Sumire and greets her warmly before turning to happily chat with Tetsuo. Sumire observes them closely, noting how friendly Saya is with him, and begins to wonder if Saya might actually like Tetsuo. Wanting his attention, Sumire speaks up, telling Tetsuo not to worry about her, then abruptly leaves, leaving him confused. By the end of the school day, Sumire feels dejected since Yusuke hardly noticed her all day. As she walks, she overhears Hana agreeing to take on more jobs for the beautification committee, which prompts her to approach her. Sumire offers to help Hana, already knowing that if she lends a hand, others will see her as a good girl. She imagines this will improve her image in Yusuke's eyes. To her surprise, however, Hana explains that their task is simply to pick up trash around the school that day. Though she responds with enthusiasm, inwardly, Sumire feels disappointed. She had pictured herself looking cute while tending to the flowers, but picking up litter feels far less appealing. Even so, she forces a cheerful smile and gets to work. As the two of them move through the school grounds, other students begin to notice their efforts. Several stop to compliment Sumire on her hard work. With every kind word, she feels a swell of pride, her chest growing lighter as the praise piles up. For once, she feels as though her good girl image is being recognized. While they continue their task, she and Hana chat lightly. It is Hana who first notices Tetsuo nearby practicing with his sports team. Sumire immediately panics and hides herself in the bushes. Hana, realizing what happened, checks on her. Aware of Sumire's dislike for bugs, she gently looks at Sumire's clothes to make sure nothing is on them. A simple act of kindness catches Sumire off guard, making her think how kind Hana is. Not long after, Yousuke and Tsutomu arrive, noticing the girls hard at work. They approach, curious about what they are doing. Sumire beams with pride as she announces that they are picking up trash as part of the beautification committee. Wanting to reward their efforts, Tsutomu quickly declares that he and Yousuke will buy the girls some drinks. Without hesitation, he rushes off, determined to get Sumire something refreshing. Yousuke lingers behind, turning to Hana to ask what she would like. She shyly admits she will leave the choice to him, and Yousuke seems pleased to have her trust, saying that he'll buy her a soda. Once he heads off, Sumire feels a sharp sting of jealousy. Bitterness rises in her chest. She mutters that Hana is unfair, confusing Hana with the sudden remark. Realizing that she has let her jealousy slip, Sumire quickly excuses herself and runs off. At a nearby park, she sits to collect her thoughts. Loneliness weighs heavily on her as she realizes she has no one to confide in. To her surprise, Tetsuo suddenly appears. Tetsuo tells her that he can listen if she wants to talk, but reassures her that it is fine if she doesn't. Still, he advises her to head home since it will be dark soon. Against his expectations, Sumire asks him to stay. Reluctantly, she admits she needs someone to hear her out. The two talk, and Tetsuo advises her that the best thing she can do is call Hana and apologize. Sumire fidgets nervously with her phone, hesitant to act. With a sigh, Tetsuo plucks it from her hand and dials Hana's number, leaving her no chance to back down. When Hana answers, Sumire begins to speak, but her nerves get the better of her. Tetsuo starts to move away to give her privacy, only to feel Sumire's hand clutching at his sleeve, silently asking him to stay by her side. Gathering her courage, Sumire apologizes to Hana, admitting she was jealous. But instead of confessing the true reason, she blurts out that she was jealous because she also wanted the soda Yousuke had offered. The flimsy excuse makes Tetsuo stifle his laughter beside her. On the other end of the call, Hana feels relieved. She accepts Sumire's explanation, glad that it was nothing serious, and reassures her that they are still friends. After the call ends, Tetsuo remarks that the issue seems at least settled for now. Sumire instructs Tetsuo not to tell Saya, pointing out that she already seems aware of their relationship because of the nickname she uses for him. Tetsuo looks confused and explains that Saya has been giving nicknames to everyone, so it isn't anything special. Realizing her mistake, Sumire's face burns with embarrassment for assuming otherwise. She moves to leave, but before she does, Tetsuo tells her simply that she is better off just being herself. The next day, Hana approaches Sumire with a bottle of soda, explaining that it was left over from yesterday. Sumire smiles at the thoughtfulness and accepts it, only to discover that Yusuke's favorite soda is spicier than she expected. A few days later, the class begins excitedly discussing their plans for the Snow White play. To make it more interesting, they decide that the roles will be reversed. Hana, not wanting much attention, quietly sets her eyes on a minor role, hoping to stay as inconspicuous as possible so no one will assign her anything larger. Unexpectedly, the class volunteers Sumire to play the role of the prince, and everyone quickly agrees. Tsutomu briefly considers volunteering himself as Snow White for the chance to kiss her, but Saya suggests Toshiyuki instead. Toshiyuki immediately refuses, explaining that he already has a girlfriend. Most of the boys want to volunteer for the role of Snow White in order to be paired with Sumire, everyone except Yusuke, who dreads the idea of memorizing too many lines. Since no one officially speaks up, the class decides to draw lots. In the end, Yusuke is chosen for the role. Sumire is thrilled, her face lighting up with excitement. Saya happily offers to handle his makeup, while Hana feels a faint disappointment. She quietly reminds herself that she only wants a minor role or to work backstage anyway. Preparations soon begin, but by lunchtime, Yusuke is unexpectedly approached by a student from another class. He asks him to become the lead vocalist for a school band performing at the festival. Yusuke quickly refuses, insisting that he isn't good at singing, and instead volunteers Tsutomu. Tsutomu eagerly accepts, excited by the idea of gaining popularity. The male student is grateful but still insists that Yusuke at least join as their guitarist. He promises to give him easy parts, and though reluctant, Yusuke agrees. Tsutomu reassures him that they can manage it, and the students happily thank them both. By the end of the day, Hana stays behind with some of her classmates to work on their class poster. Before long, they are informed that they need to leave because a storm is approaching. The girls decide to leave the panel outside under the roof, not wanting to bring it inside and risk the classroom smelling of paint. Once they leave, Hana heads out as well. Rain begins to pour heavily, and she quickly opens her umbrella. A sudden gust of wind blows, knocking down a small signboard. Alarmed, Hana remembers the poster and worries it might be damaged. She rushes back to the school, drags the poster inside the classroom, and places it safely away from the storm so it won't get ruined. Hana receives a text from her mother offering to pick her up from school. Relieved, she replies that she would like to be picked up. Just as she sends the message, the power suddenly goes out, plunging the school into complete darkness. Startled, she drops her phone and struggles to find it on the floor. When the classroom door suddenly slides open, she screams. A familiar voice quickly reassures her that it is only Yousuke. He explains that he had noticed light coming from the classroom and came to investigate. Seeing how shaken Hana is, he suggests they wait together until the power returns. Hana tries to brush it off and insists she is fine, but Yousuke remains by her side. To pass the time, they chat idly about the upcoming school festival. Yousuke shares that he was asked to play guitar in a band with Tsutomu chosen as the lead vocalist. Hana, both surprised and charmed by the thought of Yousuke on stage, voices her concern since he is already playing the lead role in their class play. Yousuke admits it will be a challenge, but says he wants to give his best in both roles so everyone can enjoy themselves. He then confesses that memorizing lines for Snow White has been difficult, though he's inspired by Sumire, who has already mastered her lines and has been helping him. Hana listens quietly, but disappointment washes over her. She tells herself that the play is in good hands as long as Yousuke and Sumire are the leads. She tries to add a compliment about their pairing, but before she can continue, she sneezes. Yousuke immediately grows concerned and offers her his sweater. Before Hana can protest, he takes it off and insists that she take it, leaving her no choice but to accept it. Warmth spreads through her chest, and though she feels happy, she also grows conflicted. Her face heats up, and she silently thanks the darkness for hiding her expression. Then a new fear sets in because she realizes that once the power comes back, Yousuke will see how red she is. Panicked, she blurts out that she should head home right away. In her rush, she trips over a marker on the floor. Yousuke lunges forward and catches her just as the lights suddenly flicker back on. For a brief moment, Hana notices how close they are, her heart racing. Embarrassed, she pulls away quickly, apologizes, and bolts out of the room, leaving Yousuke both confused and flustered. Moments later, their teacher steps inside and notices Yousuke, still there with his face red. Calling out to him, the teacher pulls him back to reality. Yousuke looks out the window at the now clear sky, while at the same time, Hana approaches her mother's car, wondering nervously how they will face each other on Monday. When the day of the festival finally arrives, Yousuke walks down the empty, decorated halls. His phone buzzes with a message from Saya, reminding him that she will arrive soon to start on his makeup. As he heads toward his classroom, he notices the signboard Hana and his classmates had made. Just then, a voice catches his attention. Curious, he peeks inside the classroom and sees Hana practicing. Mid-line, she turns and freezes, horrified to realize that Yousuke has caught her in yet another embarrassing situation. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a new episode every week. Take you